In a time when castles rose like quiet stone guardians over valleys of silver mist, there lived a woman who wandered the forest paths wearing a velvet hood the color of deep midnight, a hood that shimmered in lantern light and whispered softly against the folds of her gown as she moved, and the people who glimpsed her from afar called her the forest woman. Some thought her a witch, though her ways were gentle and her eyes as calm as candle flame. And when she passed through the old abbey gates to bring herbs and flowers for the monks, the air seemed to hush, as if the trees themselves leaned closer to listen, for she carried with her the stillness of twilight. Each evening she would light a single lantern, its glow golden and soft, and she would walk the winding trails beneath the branches heavy with moss, and the sound of her steps was like the slow turning of ancient pages, each one leading into a new dream, and the breeze carried with it the faintest fragrance of lavender, chamomile, and rose petals she kept hidden in the folds of her cloak, so that those who breathed the air behind her found their hearts slowing, their thoughts drifting, their spirits soothed as if by lullaby. In the village at the edge of the forest, children whispered of her velvet hood that gleamed like starlight when the moon rose high, and though their mothers warned them not to wander into the trees after dusk, they often dreamed of following her through candlelit paths that seemed to stretch on forever, past crumbling stone arches and ruined watchtowers where ivy curled like sleeping serpents, past wells whose waters shimmered pale as glass, until at last they reached clearings where the grass shone as though brushed with silver. The woman of the velvet hood knew the secret ways, the little bridges over streams that sang to themselves, the hollow of the oak where an old lantern forever glowed though no one had touched it in years, the chapel of mossy stones where fallen bells still whispered their echo when touched by wind, and each place she passed seemed to remember her presence, holding on to her calmness like a gentle prayer. Sometimes she would pause at the edge of the meadow where the castle could be seen on the distant hill, its towers wrapped in the glow of torchlight, banners fluttering softly in the night breeze, and she would bow her head as though in greeting. For the castle had watched over her as long as she had wandered the forest paths, and in return she watched over its lands, quiet and unseen, a keeper of dreams. On moonlit nights she spread her cloak upon the soft grass, and from the pockets of her gown she took out vials of golden oil, sprigs of dried herbs, and little wax candles shaped by hand, and she would light them one by one, each flame flickering gently like fireflies in a circle, until the meadow seemed transformed into a cathedral of quiet light, and the stars above seemed to bend lower, curious to see the glow. She whispered words not of spells but of peace, words that rose like a gentle hymn, words so soft they became indistinguishable from the sigh of the leaves, and those who wandered close enough to hear would find themselves drifting into dreams before they even closed their eyes, as though her voice carried them into a place beyond time. Sometimes the monks in their abbey would watch from afar, their candles trembling in the windows, and they would say to one another that she was blessed, that perhaps she belonged not to earth alone but to the veil between night and day, where stories were born. Travelers too, who passed by the forest road with weary feet and tired horses, would see the faint glow of her lantern deep among the trees, and though they could not reach her, they would feel their burdens lighten, their eyes grow heavy, and sleep would welcome them as though the forest itself wrapped them in velvet. In the stillness of such nights, the woman herself would close her eyes beneath her hood, breathing slowly, hearing only the rustle of her cloak in the grass, the quiet drip of water from stone, the distant chime of a bell tower, and in that silence she seemed to melt into the dream of the forest itself, no longer a part but part of its breath. One evening, as the air grew heavy with the perfume of blooming night roses and the castle lanterns glowed like floating stars along the hill, the forest woman walked deeper than ever before, her velvet hood brushing against ivy that curled over forgotten stones, her lantern painting circles of honeyed light upon the path. The woods seemed older there, their branches thicker, their silence deeper, as though she had stepped beyond the world she knew and into a chamber of time long hidden. She paused at a pool where moonlight spilled like silver coins, and for the first time, the reflection in the water showed not only herself but also the outline of a second figure, cloaked in velvet like hers, yet darker, like shadow made into form. She breathed slowly, calmly, as though she expected this meeting, and whispered words softer than bells at midnight, but the figure did not fade. It seemed to lean forward, its hood concealing a face no eye could ever fully see, and in its silence was a strange stillness, not cruel, not kind, but as if it had waited centuries for her lantern to reach this place. The trees bent slightly, as though listening, their leaves trembling in the cool air, and the pool rippled though no stone was thrown. She placed her lantern on the ground, its glow trembling faintly, and for a moment, the forest itself held its breath, every bird, every stream, every hidden chapel quiet, as though something beyond dreaming was about to awaken. The woman touched the edge of the water, and her reflection shifted, her own velvet hood glowing brighter while the other grew darker still, until it seemed the shadow stepped forward out of the pool itself, cloaked in silence, a mirror of her. Yet not her, and the meadow lanterns she had lit earlier in the night flickered all at once, as if startled by wind that had not come. She whispered once more, and the voice echoed twice, hers and another layered like two songs overlapping, gentle but haunting, as if the forest had found its twin in her presence. The villagers in their cottages far away stirred in their dreams. Sensing a strange hush, the monks in their abbey felt their candles flicker without reason, and even the torches on the castle walls burned lower, as though bowing to a secret passage of time. The woman of the velvet hood did not move away, she simply lowered her lantern into the pool, where it floated like a golden star upon water, and with that, the shadow figure faded into the ripples, leaving only moonlight upon the surface and her calm breath upon the grass. But some say, even now, that when one wanders deep enough into those woods, there is not one velvet hood but two, one of light, one of shadow, moving together like threads of a forgotten tale, and though both are silent, their presence weaves a calm so deep that any who walk those paths feel the weight of dreams upon them, a call to surrender to sleep, to drift softly beyond the waking world. The castle still watches from its hill, the abbey bells still whisper across the valley, and lanterns still glow in the meadow, yet somewhere, hidden in the folds of the forest, a secret lingers, one that no story ever ends, for each night it begins again, waiting for those who dare to dream. And so, as you rest, let your eyes grow heavy like candlelight burning low, let your breath slow as though you walk beneath velvet stars, and let this medieval night carry you into dream. If you felt the calm of the velvet hood, remember to return tomorrow night, for another journey into dreamtime. Subscribe, close your eyes, and come back again, for the story continues where sleep begins. ****